Y'all, am I supposed to make an opening statement?
If you want to, but
Not really.
Ask for questions.
All right.
Ask for questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Just about the energy level, I mean, the new defensive staff, and how you expect that to translate once the practice gets underway?
Well, I think the energy level is good in our building right now. Everybody's working hard. The defensive staff obviously has a lot of work to do. With Jeremy explaining to everybody what he wants, just explaining this system, introducing the system, and what all the terms mean, and everybody's learning new terminology, and then just the coaches, especially the defensive coaches, just learning the players' names, learning, trying to figure out who's going to line up where, even just to get started day one. I mean, there's just so much going on, and we've made some changes as to how we'll practice, just the structure of it a little bit. I asked Mike and Mike Bobo and Jeremy to get together and talk a little bit about our practice schedules over the last few years and how we went about it, and if there's anything they thought might be worthy of changing and all that kind of thing. And so we're gonna change how we practice just a little bit. The main ingredients that need to get accomplished during practice are gonna be just fine. I mean, I've got a lot. That's the part where I'm looking it over and making sure I feel like we're getting everything done within the practice that we need to get done. But like for example, our periods have always been 5-minute periods as we go. And now we're going to have, maybe one period's a 7-minute period, one period's an 8-minute period, 1 minute's a 3-minute period, and things of that nature. Changing how we do our walkthroughs just a little bit prior to practice. We normally have walkthroughs, meaning walking and talking through assignments on offense and defense, but there'll be some times where we'll walk and talk assignments against each other, just for teaching. Because usually when you do a walkthrough on offense, you're getting some bodies to line up on defense, and the same thing on defense when you're walking and talking through assignments, you're getting somebody to line up and try to simulate an offensive set. Well, we might as well just walk through against each other and not have to spend the time setting up a scout team, so to speak. So some really good ideas there that are going to be different. But so when you have change, I think that adds excitement to what's going on. It adds a little energy maybe. And certainly our players, especially on defense, know that every job's wide open, and they've got to prove to their position coach and coordinator that they should be the guy to be a starter. They should be the guy to earn playing time and all that kind of thing. Without question, spring is still going to be about teaching good fundamentals and for safety purposes and for success purposes. The better we can block and tackle, the better we'll have a chance to make our systems go. You can have great scheme and poor tactics, and you're going to have no success. I'd rather have less scheme and more tactics, more fundamentals. I think we'll have a better chance of winning. So that's what's happening right now.
Why all the change? Do you feel like some things need to be fixed?
Change doesn't necessarily mean something needs to be fixed. It's just a different way of doing things. And Jeremy's been at a couple places where the practices were structured just a little bit different, and as far as just the time frame of certain drills, and so after him and Mike talked it over and brought it to me and presented it to me, and I looked it over, I was like, it's all good. If you guys buy in and you're excited about it, I am too. But like I said, I had to make sure that that all the ingredients are in the practice, as far as, or is there enough fundamental time? Is there enough time for the certain group work together against each other? For example, we're still going to have X amount of pass skeleton and pass rush going on, or we'll have still going to have certain amount of team run 11-on-11 stuff. Still be time for, offense and defensive line to be working on certain fundamentals. And, so all the things that we've always done, as far as all the ingredients you put into the recipe are all there. It's just served up a little bit different. So I don't mind having a little bit of change if everybody thinks it's a good thing and they're excited about it, and they're gonna, if you take some ownership in it, if your assistant coaches have some ownership in some of those decisions, I think they tend to sell it more, and they're more excited about, starting out the spring.
Coach, the excitement you talked about, especially the returning guys on defense, I mean, is it more of the on-field stuff they feel that Pruitt can improve for them, or is it the preparation, or is it a mixture of both?
Well, I mean, I think right now they're just, I think my guess is their main thought is trying to win a job. What do I have to do to prove to coach I can win this job? Guys want to play. Guys want to start. Guys want to play pro football. Guys want, to win championships. And so I think that's their main thought. But I think they're excited about just seeing what's in store. Because, obviously, Coach Pruitt's had a lot of success where he's been, and the coaches that we've brought in, besides him on defense, I think have all had a lot of success where they've been. And so there's a expectation of things getting better. So I think that's probably where the excitement comes in.
Mark, are there any offensive players you kind of earmarked to maybe get a few shots on defense or vice versa?
Well, right now, I think we already moved Tramel Terry to safety.
Mm-hmm.
We had done that, right? And he's there. J.J. Green's going to start out at cornerback. He's beginning to learn those types of things. And, J.J. obviously played a lot of defense in high school. And even when he came to Georgia, when we signed him, we really didn't say for sure where he was going to end up. We needed him really at the tailback position last year, and now after Coach Pruitt looking over the situation and remembering JJ, through the recruiting process, he wanted to see what he could do, and I think because of that, JJ's already trimmed down a little bit to help his quickness and his explosiveness, and now considering he's not going to be carrying the ball, he'll be able to play at a lighter weight. So I think he's already feeling a little quicker and all that type of thing.
Mark, do you think you guys have a good sense of between your first guy in the secondary and your eighth guy in terms of how much separation there is?
I think our coaches are just wide open to figuring out who belongs where and who's first team and who's not. And we do have our off-season conditioning, our mat drill program, and our coaches are allowed to be there and coaching those things and observing quickness, agility, even coachability, all these certain things. Can the guy get in a good football position and stay there? Can he get off the ground quick and go pursue, and those types of things? And I think they're getting a little bit of a feel of what they see, but mat drills simulate football, but it's not football. And until we get out there and start putting a lot of moving parts out there, I don't think anybody has any idea
What's the hardest
who's
part?
going to end up where. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about installing a new defensive scheme or offensive scheme and bringing a new coordinator?
Well, just the fact that everybody's learning, and while you're learning, we always use the term playing fast. Guys can play fast when they really know what they're doing. And in the learning process, first you learn what to do, and that's good. But then you got to learn how to do it, and then you have to experience it over and over and over and over until it becomes second nature, and then you can play fast. And so I'm sure there's going to be through the learning process some hesitancy, not because guys aren't tough or guys aren't aggressive or whatever, but just not being 100% sure what to do. So until everybody really gets comfortable learning what to do, it's going to be hard for them to play extremely fast. But I don't think Jeremy's goal is to put in so much that everybody's confused either. I think he wants to put in enough to where there's some carryover when the fall rolls around. We know we don't have to win a game this spring, you know. So we're going to expose them to as much as we possibly can within the system. But knowing that they probably won't be perfect right now, but if they get through that learning process in the spring, and then all summer long they can be thinking about it and working on it and studying it, and then in camp kind of start all over from scratch, and then the second time around they'll be better at it and have more confidence, and by the time we decide what we're going to do in a game, we got to find out, of these things that we've worked on, what can we perfect, what do we feel we can go in the game and expect to execute.
Mark, speaking of playing fast, I think the final vote on the slowdown rule is tomorrow, the
Okay.
so-called saving rule.
Sure.
Your feeling, you're on the record as saying you don't support that, I believe.
Well, I support the officials being in position to call the game. I think you can go so fast that an official is out of position. I think there ought to be something in there to help the officials be in position to call the game, and for their safety and for, you know, the integrity of the game, so to speak. I think that's important. I think that not many people snap the ball faster than the 10-second timing that we're talking about. If everybody snapped the ball right at 10 seconds, they're flying, they're going fast. So I don't know how much it would affect us. But do I think that the rule should change? I don't think the rule should change. Should it modify somewhat if it needs to help the officials get in the right spots? I'd say yes. I think we're in an off year for rules changing, and the only way a rule can change is if it has a player safety issue involved in it, and I think it's more of a style issue than a safety issue. That's what I think.
Are there times when you watch a game or go through a game that you think to yourself, boy, this is taking a long time out here? I mean, college games, especially if you watch like a college game on Saturday and an NFL game on Sunday,
Yeah.
there's a pace to the NFL game that has kind of gotten lost in
Well, the
college.
the biggest thing the NFL does that doesn't do that we do is stop the clock on the first down.
And they let it run when the guy runs out of bounds.
Yeah, and we've done some of that. We've changed a little bit of that in our game. If a guy goes, out of bounds now, it used to be that the clock wouldn't start till the ball was snapped, but the ball will be put into play and wind the clock and go as if a first down happened. So we've changed a little bit there, but I mean, I like the game the way it is personally. I don't hear anybody griping and moaning about it as far as fans. I think fans think it's a great game. I think they enjoy it. We do run more plays than NFL teams do. We run more plays than they do. But you know what? They got a 53-man roster. We got a 125-man roster. We got more kids that can get in the game, and I think it's good when more playing time they get. I think the better your morale is, and the better it is for your players.
Do you think that more plays equals more chances for injury, or is that part of the debate? Or I guess the other part of the debate is whether quicker plays results in.
Well, I don't even know what angle everybody's taking, but I've been saying this and I believe it. I think if you can train offensive players to play 7 plays in a row or 6 plays in a row in a rapid fire sequence, then I think you should be able to train defensive players to do the same thing. So in regard to that, I don't think there's an issue with safety, but more plays, more yards, more points. Is there more injuries? I don't know. I would think that could possibly be true.
Mark, is there a certain approach you're going to have with Todd Gurley this spring, given how banged up he was last year, and also the guys that were injured that are coming back? Anybody full go or?
Well, right now, Todd has not been full go. Todd has been still bothered by the injury that he had. So I really don't know I don't know what to expect with Todd in the spring. But let's say that ankle was 100%, January 30th, and he's been doing fine and doing all the off season and all that. I mean, we'd hook it up and play ball with him like everybody else. But right now, he has been less than full speed in the off season program. So my guess is, unless he is completely healed by next Tuesday or the 18th, that there'll be some modification to what he's doing.
Coach, obviously a lot of spotlight on the defense, but what are you most looking forward to as spring practice approaches and G-Day?
Well, what I always say, I do want us to do a great job of teaching fundamentals. It is a time of the year where scheme should take second place to fundamentals. Again, you don't have to win any games. You do want to win the day, and I'll talk about that next, because number 2 is I want these guys to be competing. I want them competing for their position. I want them to be competing, against each other, offense and defense, and I think you have to compete every day to really get in the habit of competing, what it's going to take to compete throughout the season. So I think it's good to get in the habit of trying to win every drill and all that kind of thing. There's some drills we structured to be teaching drills. Some drills we structured to cooperate with one another, offense and defense. But then there's a lot of times we hook it up and say, all right, who's going to win? And so those are the 2 main ingredients of what we want to get accomplished. And then this year, probably more than most years, again with the brand new defensive scheme, is just learning what to do. Obviously, you got to learn what to do. Offense has an awful lot of people other than Jacob Park. Everybody's back with a pretty good working knowledge of what we do on offense.
Is Rome anywhere ready to go?
I don't think Jay will. Matter of fact, I think Jay very soon is going to get some pins out of his foot. I guess it was his foot, and then he'll be able to start running after that. He may be able to do some things before spring's over, but I don't think day 1 he'll be going.
Same with, I guess, the ACL guys, Scott Wesley.
No. Marshall, no. Reggie Wilkerson has made a lot of progress. He'll be doing he may be in some green jersey situation, non-contact jersey, but from what I've seen in the mat drills in the offseason, he'll be able to get a lot of work in. He's an ACL guy. Of course, this happened last summer, if you remember, during some of the workouts they had as just a team when they worked on their own.
Got Malcolm Mitchell.
Malcolm's made a lot of progress, and Malcolm might be able to run some routes and maybe do some pass skeleton somewhere along the way, but I doubt he'll get anywhere near to a contact drill.
This might be more, apply more to fall camp, but how much during spring are you guys, as coaches, able to simulate an actual game situation when the coaches are all, mic'd up?
Right.
Have y'all begun to discuss?
Well, we do. We when we scrimmage, we try to. There's sometimes where a coach needs to be on the field or in the huddle to help a young player or something like that. But usually when we scrimmage, on a scrimmage day, we have 3 days that we're allowed to do 100% scrimmage. We'll have 2 big scrimmages, and then we'll have our G-Day game. The third is we'll try to get the coaches off the field. Now I may be on the field standing back at a distance. I'll have a headset on listening to what's being, the plays that are being called and the defenses that are being called. But I'm not in there telling guys what to do. I'm just observing from behind as a neutral observer, so to speak. But we'll do that at least 3 times this spring.
And with the new coaches, is that something you'll also possibly evaluate as to how it's been done in the past versus how it might be done moving forward?
I mean, Jeremy's going to make the call on, who's on the ground, who's upstairs. I haven't even asked him if he's calling the game from the ground or in the booth. Some D coordinators go up. Most of them stay on the ground, but I've got no problem. I know what it's like to call plays from the ground and what it's like to call plays from upstairs, and for me, there's a difference. And So, whatever he feels most comfortable, and, you know, if he decides some things and we live it out a little bit and decide this is not the best plan of action, we can always change, obviously, but you know, he's been around the block long enough where he'll have a good plan.
Who are you looking at left tackle this year? Who else will be working there?
Well, I'm sure Beard will get some shots at it, and Theus would probably, I think he'll be the first guy starting out there. Colton Houston. You know, I'm not sure exactly how and when we'll rotate those guys around, but I think Theus is going to be the one starting out there at left tackle.
Do you see him? Do you see that position being one that he can definitely
Well,
play?
you know, it's just like, you know, a lot of people didn't think Cordy Glenn could play left tackle, and especially in the NFL. I believe that's what he's doing right now. And, you know, his senior year, we moved Cordy to left tackle. He played some guard. He played some right tackle. And we moved him to left tackle his senior year, and a lot of people kind of doubted that for us and doubted it in the league, and sure enough, that's what he's doing. So, you know, I think Theus will have a good chance of being able to do that. But that's why you practice and try to find the best combination.
How much of that is experimental with John and left tackle? How much of it is it, you know?
Well, I
this is
mean,
your job?
you know, we're not doing it for fun. We're doing it to decide, you know, who would be best suited for that. You know, we're not doing it to appease anybody. We're trying to find the best combination of all those positions.
Mark, you mentioned wanting these guys to compete for their positions, but with the offensive guys in particular, you mentioned everybody but Park is very much up to speed with what you all do. How, as coaches, do you, I guess, keep them anxious and ready for spring ball, considering they know that obviously summer camp is so far away?
I think our guys are extremely excited. Offensive players, I mean, there's a lot of decisions to be made up front. You know, who's going to play where, just some of the things we're talking about right now. The wide receiver positions, you know, I don't know if anybody's just sitting there saying, this is my starting role, you can't take it. I mean, when young guys learn and get wiser and compete and start making plays, they put the pressure on anybody who might be a starter going into the spring. So I think everybody knows their jobs are up for grabs, and sometimes, maybe even more importantly, playing time's up for grabs. Sometimes a guy may hold on to a starting position, but he might have been so much better than the number 2 guy, he gets 70–80% of the reps, where if a number 2 becomes more adept at what he's doing, you know, gains more faith from the coaching staff, then maybe all of a sudden he's playing 40 or 45% of the snaps, and the other guy's only playing 50% of the snaps, 55%, whatever. You know, so, you know, you can usually a second team guy cuts into a starter's playing time before he overtakes him. And, you know, starters, you know, some starters don't want to share if they can help it, you know.
What's this spring mean for Hudson Mason?
Well, you know, Hudson is, I think he's already earned the respect of his teammates with his work ethic and the way he's practiced over the years. And even after, you know, seeing him play a couple games, I think they see that he's got the ability to get it done. And I think it was healthy for Hudson to play and have some success and have some tough times too, and help him understand what it takes and just live it out a little bit to where I think it's going to keep him humble and keep him working and knowing he's got some things he's got to work on. And but I think just trying to, you know, solidify his spot as a number 1 guy and as the leader of the football team, or at least one of the better leaders on the team.
Clemson announced yesterday that they have 4 players that aren't going to be playing against you guys. Is Justin Scott Wesley suspended that game, and anyone else?
I'll get into anything like that at another time. It won't be now.
Who's number 2 behind Hudson going into?
I'm not sure how Mike has it set up, but I think he's got Fatone there. Bryce obviously will be fighting for that. Jacob will be working hard towards that as well.
Coach, what's your take on the proposed position on the NCAA Rules Committee?
I'm not sure what you're asking. The what?
The proposed position that asked you to take a position on the NCAA Rules Committee.
Oh, that is, well, I'm happy to serve. I'm happy to serve on that.
Would it take time away from football at all?
Everything I do takes time away from that, but you know, there's certain things that are very important in the game of football, and the rules themselves are very important. And you know, I'm on the board of trustees of the American Football Coaches Association, and I was part of the group that spent hours and hours trying to make some changes in some of our rules in regard to recruiting, and even like the 8-hour rule that we have in the summer now, where there's a mandatory, you know, 8 hours a week. Where before there was nothing mandatory in the summer. I mean, I've been pushing hard for that for years, but being on the board of trustees, I had a voice, and I had a chance to see what other coaches thought, and a lot of people agreed with that, and we got some rules changed. I thought that were really good, you know, for the NCAA in general. You know, that there's a 2-week dead period for recruiting in the summertime. I mean, no one can come on our campus for 2 weeks, you know, where before, you know, all summer long, the constant people's coming in on official visits, which was great. But I mean, I think 2 weeks where you can tell your coaching staff, get out of here, go have vacation with your family, where high school coaches know they don't have to drag their kids to a certain spot, and even the recruits themselves, there's 2 weeks in there where there's going to be none of that type of thing going on. I think that was a really healthy rule change, and there's some others. So, you know, if being on the rules committee allows me to have some say there and some influence there, you know, I'm happy to do it.
Moving JJ to cornerback and Keith Marshall still being inactive, what are you hoping to see from AJ Turman this spring?
Well, AJ's going to get a lot of reps and a chance to really show what he can do and continue to perfect his trade, so to speak. You know, if you remember, I think it was a hamstring or something that was bothering him. You know, I use the term at the moment of truth. I mean, when he needed to be healthy, he needed to get a lot of reps and get into the, you know, when you're in camp, you're learning what to do, and you decide who's going to play where. But when you get close to the game one and you start game planning it, you don't have any more time to develop a young guy. It's kind of like we got to go with who knows what's up, and it was hard for AJ to get back in the mix after he had lost that crucial time. So now he'll have a better chance to show what he can do.
You have time for one more?
I think it's Coach Scherer. One of his responsibilities was specifically listed as coaching the star position. As far as you know, talking to Coach Pruitt and everyone else, is what being asked of that role going to be different under Coach Pruitt as compared to Coach Grantham? Is that going to change at all?
Well, it's the star is basically a nickel. It's a guy who is a fifth DB. You know, if a Sam linebacker comes out of the game in our base defense, he's usually replaced by the star player. And a lot of their responsibilities are the same as far as that, but it's a different body type there to match up with the third receiver or whatever it may be. And it's not going to be, I would say, more alike than different from a year ago. All right, thank you.
Thanks,